The village of Marrow Bay was infamous, whispered about by neighboring towns and travelers, but rarely visited. It stood on the edge of the world, at the point where the land met the roaring sea, and it had been a place of mystery for as long as anyone could remember. The townspeople spoke in hushed tones of the ancient curse that plagued the land, a curse that had been passed down through generations, ravaging the village slowly over time. Lena, a young woman with an unyielding curiosity for the unknown, had heard of Marrow Bay all her life. She had grown up listening to the strange and unsettling stories, but she never quite believed them. She was a scholar of the supernatural, and she believed that every mystery had an answer, if only one could find the right clues. When Lena arrived in Marrow Bay, she felt an immediate chill in the air, not just from the cold sea breeze, but from something more intangible. The village was bleak, the houses weathered by years of storms and neglect. The streets were eerily quiet, with not a single person in sight. Even the trees that lined the village seemed to lean in toward her, their branches twisted, almost as if they were alive and watching. The innkeeper, a grizzled man named Old Henry, welcomed Lena with suspicion, his eyes darting nervously around the room as if he were expecting something or someone. "You shouldn't be here," he warned her softly. "The curse is no joke. No one leaves once they've come." Lena, despite his warnings, was resolute. She was here for a reason, to uncover the truth behind the stories, the mystery of the curse, and the strange disappearances that had plagued the village for decades. That night, as Lena walked through the village in search of answers, a thick fog rolled in from the sea. It crept across the ground like a living thing, swallowing the village whole. The fog was not like any Lena had seen before. It was dense and unnaturally cold, wrapping around her like an invisible hand. The path ahead grew darker, and even the faint glow from the inn's window seemed to fade as she ventured deeper into the fog. Suddenly, a figure appeared before her. A shadow, tall and cloaked in dark rags, standing still in the middle of the road. Lena froze, her heart racing in her chest. As she approached, the figure slowly turned its head toward her. The air grew colder, and she could feel a heavy, oppressive energy weighing down on her. "Who are you?" Lena demanded, her voice trembling despite her best efforts to stay calm. The figure did not respond, but instead began to slowly move toward her. Every step it took seemed to bring the fog closer, as if the figure itself was feeding the darkness that surrounded them. Lena's instincts screamed for her to run, but she stood her ground, determined to learn the truth. The figure reached out a hand, its fingers skeletal and cold. And just as Lena thought she would be consumed by the shadows, the figure vanished, leaving only the dense fog behind. Shaken but resolute, Lena continued on her journey. She had felt something dark, something ancient, and she knew she was getting closer to the heart of Marrow Bay's curse. The next day, Lena visited the local library in search of more information. The library was small and dusty, filled with old books and records. The librarian, a nervous woman named Agnes, seemed eager to help but warned Lena to be careful in her search. "Some things are best left forgotten," she muttered, casting furtive glances at the windows. Lena ignored the woman's warning, determined to find the truth. She pored over old town records and diaries, searching for any mention of the curse or strange occurrences. It was in one of the ancient journals that she uncovered the chilling tale that would change everything. The journal told the story of the original curse, how the village had once been a thriving port, until a shipwrecked crew arrived, carrying with them an ancient relic. They had unknowingly unleashed a curse that bound the village to the sea, trapping the souls of those who lived there, never to find peace. The curse grew stronger with each passing generation, and it was said that only one person could break it, a person willing to confront the shadows. Lena's heart raced as she read the final entry. "The shadows will claim you if you dare to break the curse, but only in the darkest hour will the light shine through." Lena couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. Everywhere she went in Marrow Bay, the shadows seemed to follow her, growing longer and darker as the days passed. The villagers grew more distant, whispering among themselves when they thought she couldn't hear. That night, as Lena walked through the village once more, she saw something that made her blood run cold. The figure she had encountered in the fog appeared again, standing just beyond the edge of the village. This time, the figure spoke, its voice low and haunting. "Do you seek to break the curse, Lena?" it asked, its tone almost mocking. "You have already crossed the line. The shadows are now a part of you." Lena took a step back, her heart hammering in her chest. "What do you mean?" she demanded, but the figure was already retreating into the darkness, leaving only its chilling words behind. The shadows that had been lingering around her seemed to grow more insistent, whispering promises of power, of release from the curse, but at a price. Lena felt herself becoming lost in the whispers, the pull of the darkness drawing her closer with every passing moment. The following day, Lena could no longer deny the truth. The curse was real. The shadows were not just a symbol, they were a living, breathing force that had begun to take root in her mind. The fog that had once been a simple occurrence now felt like a presence, watching her every move, guiding her steps. Lena knew she had to make a choice, break the curse and free the town, or accept the shadows as her own and give in to their power. She couldn't ignore it any longer. The choice was hers to make, and the consequences would be irreversible. As night fell and the fog rolled in once more, Lena walked to the cliffs that overlooked the village. The sea below was dark and ominous, reflecting the storm brewing within her. She could feel the shadows closing in around her, but she knew what she had to do. With one final breath, Lena called out to the sea, to the shadows that had haunted the town for centuries. "I will break the curse," she whispered, "and I will face whatever comes with it." The air around Lena grew thicker, colder, as though the very earth beneath her feet was reacting to her declaration. The shadows, once faint, surged toward her, swirling in a whirlwind of dark energy. The whispers escalated, becoming deafening in their intensity. It was as if the curse itself had been sleeping, only to be awakened by Lena's defiance. A sudden gust of wind swept through the cliffs, carrying with it a faint voice, distorted and filled with malice. "You cannot escape what you have unleashed," it hissed. Lena's heart pounded in her chest as she turned toward the source of the voice. The shadows had now taken form, swirling around her in tangible tendrils, like serpents eager to consume her. For a moment, she feared she might be pulled into the very heart of the curse, trapped forever. But then, a strange calm washed over her. The shadows had always been a part of this town, and she realized that she could not defeat them with strength alone. She needed something more. With a deep breath, Lena began to chant the words from the journal, words that had been lost to time. They felt unfamiliar on her tongue, yet strangely right, like a key that had always been in her possession, waiting for the right moment. As she spoke the incantation, the shadows hesitated, recoiling from the power in her voice. The fog thickened, pressing in around her, but Lena stood firm, refusing to back down. The ground beneath Lena trembled as the shadows retreated, only to gather once more, swirling and circling around her. The air became colder still, and she felt an icy grip on her heart, as if the curse was trying to take hold of her soul. From the depths of the fog, a figure emerged, tall, imposing, with eyes glowing like molten gold. It was the source of the whispers, the embodiment of the curse that had plagued Marrow Bay for centuries. The figure's face was hidden beneath a hood, but its voice was unmistakable. "Foolish mortal," the figure spoke, its voice a low, guttural growl. "You have awakened the curse, but you do not understand its true nature. The shadows are not just a force, they are the essence of this land, the remnants of those who died here. You cannot defeat what is part of you." Lena's mind raced, but she refused to yield. "I will break this curse," she declared, her voice steady despite the fear rising in her chest. "I will free this town and its people." The figure laughed, a sound that sent chills down Lena's spine. "You cannot. You are already bound to this place. The shadows will never leave you, and neither will I." With that, the figure reached out, its skeletal hand extending toward Lena, pulling her closer. The shadows thickened, their tendrils wrapping around her body, as though trying to drag her into the abyss. But Lena's will was stronger now. The words from the journal rang in her mind, and she knew what she had to do. Lena's heart raced as the shadows pressed in on all sides. She could feel their cold, insistent pull, but she refused to let them take her. The figure, now standing before her, reached for her with a cruel smile, its gold eyes gleaming in the darkness. "You think you can break the curse?" the figure taunted. "You are nothing but a pawn in a game older than time. The shadows will consume you, just as they have consumed every soul before you." But Lena, filled with the power of her resolve, took a step forward, ignoring the figure's taunts. The shadows recoiled, as if they were afraid of her newfound strength. "I am not afraid of you," she whispered, her voice filled with defiance. "I will face you, and I will end this. The curse ends tonight." With one final, powerful incantation, Lena reached deep within herself, summoning every ounce of strength she had. The ground beneath her feet cracked open, and the very earth seemed to shake. The shadows writhed in pain as the power of the curse began to unravel. The figure screamed in fury, its form dissipating as the shadows that had once held it together dissolved into nothingness. The fog began to lift, and the night sky above cleared, revealing a sea of stars. The cursed land of Marrow Bay, once plagued by darkness, began to breathe again. As the shadows disappeared, Lena felt a strange weight lift from her shoulders. The air around her was no longer thick with dread. Instead, a sense of peace began to settle in. The curse had been broken, but the cost had been great. Marrow Bay was free, but the power she had unleashed to defeat it had left its mark. Lena collapsed to her knees, exhausted from the battle. Her body ached, and her mind swirled with exhaustion, but she knew the fight was over. The town would be free, the curse broken, and the shadows would no longer haunt its people. As she stood up, she turned toward the village. The fog that had once filled the streets was now gone, and the villagers, who had been hidden in fear for so long, emerged from their homes. They looked at her with wonder and awe, as if seeing a hero for the first time. The curse had been broken, and Marrow Bay was free. But Lena knew that she would never forget the darkness that had tried to consume her. The battle was over, but the shadows were always lurking, waiting for the next time the curse would rise again. She would always remember the cost of breaking the curse, and she would never forget the whispers that had haunted her in the dark. In the days that followed, Marrow Bay slowly returned to normal. The villagers rebuilt their homes, and the once cursed land began to bloom with life. The air was fresher, the sea calmer, and the fog that had blanketed the village was no longer a constant presence. Lena stayed in the village for a time, helping the people who had once feared her. She taught them the story of the curse, of how she had broken it, and the price they all paid. But despite the newfound peace, Lena could feel the pull of the shadows lingering in the back of her mind. The curse was gone, but it would always be a part of her, just as it had always been a part of Marrow Bay. As she left the village to continue her journey, Lena knew that the darkness would always be a part of her. But now, she carried the light with her as well, and she would never forget the power she had within her to stand against it.